Coach, got the first win under your belt, so to speak. How much now is there a different mood now after the struggles of the first 2 weeks?
You know what, Thomas? I don't know if I could tell a lot of difference between this morning's practice and the practices from the previous 2 weeks, but I feel a little, I feel a lot better. It's a little bit of a sense of relief with me, the fact that we got to win.
What did you see in Saturday's game that gives you encouragement going into Saturday?
Well, that defense, that's what you see that really encourages you. The fact that those guys, run around and we've got as much depth as we have in a way where you can, substitute guys pretty freely in there and they get a chance to play really hard that way. So, I'm hoping that we can continue to improve that way. And then, our offense shows signs of being able to really run the football now. We couldn't at times, but we could at times. We got to just make the times that we can, more available to us.
Saturday's game, not only just a classic game, but also, do you also see it as a dress rehearsal because it's your final non-conference game?
It's that time of year where you're finishing up your non-conference schedule and you're going into your conference schedule. We'll have Hampton coming back in here in another week or so, and at that point you need to have all your stuff in line that way. So, I'm hoping that we can play really well against Benedict this coming Saturday because it'll be a prelude to what we get when we get Hampton here the following week.
Do you expect a more confident team, Benedict team, coming in compared to the times you played them in the Classics?
Oh, I think they'll be a lot more confident. They won 2 big games. They beat Central at Central State, and then they went to New York this past weekend and played in Giant Stadium and won that game against Virginia State. So, I've had a chance to see both films. I think in both cases they really, won the games going away. They've shown themselves to be a real formidable team that we are going to have to get after this coming Saturday.
What's the one area you think they can provide more difficulties?
Well, I think their quarterback is a heck of an athlete. He throws around to some really good skilled guys. That whole group of guys in general, give you problems. I think their, defense is a good, sound, in space kind of defense. They are a 50 team where they've got a lot of medium-sized guys that are really athletic that can run to the ball that way. So they give us some, some headaches on both sides of the ball with their skill style kind of personnel.
Do you sort of see this game also as almost like reverse for what y'all went through playing a Clemson?
I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it is. And I kind of know how the Clemson people feel when we come to play them. But at the same time, there's not quite as much space between Clemson and South Carolina State as there is, between Benedict and South Carolina State as there is between Clemson and South Carolina State. I think, our resources are closer to being the same. But at the same time, it is a little bit of a worration to have to worry about, dealing with a lesser foe and the perception of the fact that you ought to have to beat them.
Your quarterbacks play. If you take away Tyler's numbers, they really seem as though they still trying to find their way, both Richard and
Wilder. For sure. We are still trying to find our way with them also. And, Teddy seemed to have played, a little bit better, I thought, toward the game. I liked his energy a little bit better, as the game went on than Richard did, than Richard's energy. So, you'll see more of him, but at the same time, I think it's probably going to be a situation where we'll play both of those guys at a rate where we'll eventually see which one kind of separates himself from the pack.
You talked about your offensive line getting banged up. Where did things stand health-wise for them?
Well, Shaq practiced a little bit this morning. Shaq Harrison, Devin, Tristan Bellamy, Dominique, all those guys seem to be solid. We got to figure out whether or not we can get C.J. Wilson going. Javars Lehman played there a good bit and played good at times, but he's got to, kind of find some assignment issues that he can kind of find a way to get fixed. But I think we may be okay there if we can get CJ back to play maybe even part-time. I think we've got 2 or 3 other guys that we're trying to play around in there a little bit, Avery Grant, some of those guys. But, right now it's one of those kind of situations where we've got to figure out how to get 5 of those guys together and get them practicing together for enough time where, we can get them settled in together that way. Then at that point, then I think we can begin to take off.
This past Saturday, DeQuan West saw significant action. He was sort of like the other Wildcat coming out of Lexington along with Shaq Rowland. Watching him, I guess, in high school, what did you see that sort of could make him someone who could play?
Well, at the time, I was not sure if he was going to be a wide receiver, maybe a big skill guy, maybe a tight end even kind of style guy, because he did a lot of that kind of stuff in high school, but he stayed into the wide receiver style kind of mold. And